All
Cool.
right.
All
Well,
right.
welcome to another episode of Why This Beer. Yeah. Join us as we discuss all the things that make our craft beer scene unique and the people that help sculpt these great brews. I'm Aslan Graves of Main Street Brewing, and as always, joined by Darren Banema of Neighborhood Brewing and Yellow Dog Penticton.
Hello, hello. Yeah, and today on Why This Beer, we're joined by Brent Mills, co-founder of Four Winds Brewing, a family-founded brewery based in Delta, BC. Since opening in 2013, Four Winds has become a staple of the BC beer scene, distributing across the province, into Alberta and beyond. Known for their well-crafted European-inspired lagers and unique yeast-driven ales like the beloved Nectarous Dry Hop Sour and La Maison Tropical Ale, Four Winds continues to innovate. Most recently, they opened up their newest location, the Beach House and Brewery in Tsawwassen's Southlands, which I haven't been to yet, but it sounds great. And they're bringing a West Coast take on the classic beer hall. We'll chat with Brent about his journey in the industry, the evolution of Four Winds, and what's next for the brewery. So let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Great.
Yeah, and pleasure to have you as well. We usually like to start it out with just you sharing a little bit about your journey in craft beer and like kind of how you ended up getting to the point of deciding to make it your career.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's got a little bit different of a story, but maybe rooted in the same thing. I don't know any of us that really just got out of high school and joined the brewery, but maybe they did. But for years, I worked in restaurants in the back of house as a cook and then a chef, and I loved it. I was passionate about food, still am, but I really grew tired of the world of kitchen operations and how demanding it is of a lifestyle. Ironically, the brewing world is double that. You find out later, but I found a passion in beer, and my dad was a real driver in teaching me that you can make beer at home. And so my dad, Greg, and I first started home brewing back in 2007, 2008. And like most people that brew their first batch at home, they're like, oh, why don't I open a brewery one day? That sounds easy. So that was 2008, and I was still working in restaurants, and my dad was semi-retired, and he wanted to start like a little side project to start a boat building company. He just finished a program studying on Gabriola Island, studying to make wooden boats, and
cool.
he kind of convinced me. Also, I convinced him to hire me. So I left my job at Aphrodite's in Vancouver, where I was working as the kitchen lead, to join him to build boats, which was a lot of fun. But part of that kind of agreement was that I was going to try to get a job at a brewery to get experience at that point, like anything, foot in the door sort of thing. And as you guys probably both know, in 2008, there's like 3 breweries in Vancouver. I communicated the best I could.
Yeah,
exactly. I communicated the best I could to all of them that I wanted even a volunteer job, anything that was possible to kind of get my foot in the door. And there wasn't much option. So I continued to work with my dad and do some homebrew with him. And then late 2009, the Vancouver Winter Olympics were coming, and R&B Brewing in Vancouver called me and like, hey, we could use someone to wash kegs and fill kegs during the Olympics. And I was like, yes, 100%. So joined them. I think it was just at the end of 2009, and then worked with them washing and filling kegs, pretty much doing any grunt work that was possible through to the end of February, maybe mid-March. I can't remember exactly when. And then they're like, all right, that's it. Thanks for the help. And I was like, oh, this isn't a full-time job. So I went back to help my dad building boats for a couple months. And then I got a call from R&B, and they're like, hey, we have a position, like a full-time position. Do you want to come and learn to brew? And I was like, yes, I do. So that was it. That was my ticket in. And I spent about 3 years working at R&B, from entry-level keg washer filler to learning to brew. And then when I left at the end of 2012, I was the production manager, which was an amazing experience working with Rick and Barry and all parties involved. It was awesome.
Yeah. I imagine there too, like a truly hands-on, hands-on experience at R&B. You're doing a little bit of everything and no automation.
Yeah. No automation, and like really like admired the way like I'm pretty sure Rick did the design of all of it. Like he comes from the UK, very British style brewery at the time with like primary fermenters and secondary fermenters and bright tanks. So there's a lot of movement of beer. There's a DE filter. Everything was like made to work. Like nothing was really top of the line equipment wise. Like a lot of dairy tanks, second hand like glycol system. Everything was jerry rigged and functional. Like definitely on a shoestring budget. Those guys made it work, and they were making some excellent beer. And I learned one of the most valuable things I learned, and as you guys know, as brewers, is like you got to learn how to fix things, and that was really instilled on me really early with Rick, who could fix anything, and wow. I definitely learned a lot from Rick in that sense. And now in my position at Four Winds, I'm the maintenance guy because of that, which is a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something breaking down.
Learned a lot to take a lot of pictures as you're taking it apart, and
exactly.
Yeah. You learn your like best suppliers are ones that you have their phone numbers directly.
Totally.
Those kind of things.
Yeah. When you can like get the text phone number and not the order desk or whatever, that's when you know.
Yeah.
you got regular
line.
Yeah.
Cool. And then during that time, were you kind of laying out the plans for Four Winds and what that would become?
I wasn't really. I really like had a mentality that I needed to spend at least 5 years in the industry before I would even start thinking about opening a brewery. During that time, I did a stint at Siebel. It was just a 2-week concise program in Chicago, but I went to Chicago, did the program. I think that was in 2011, which was an amazing experience. Met a lot of great people, learned a lot. Came back and tried to implement a lot of that stuff that I learned at R&B, which was cool. And yeah, but my dad was kind of the driving force. Like I said, he was semi-retired. He was trying to do this boat building business, which it never really took off. Like it's hard. You got to build a boat, and then you got to find someone to buy it. It's like you need a reputation to get anyone to even think about spending that kind of money on a boat. And in the end, that wasn't going to work. So he was always poking me, being like, "Let's do it. Let's open a brewery." He was the driving force for sure. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like I barely know how to make beer. And he seemed to have this conviction about it that's not a big deal. Like we'll figure that out. After a certain amount of time, I guess I was convinced that I knew enough to at least start. I gave my notice. I gave a long notice, 3-month notice. And Greg and I did a trip to San Diego to the Brewers Conference in 2012 and drove down there, stopped at like 30 breweries on the way. We spent like a week and a half doing this, and such a great experience. Talking about what we wanted to do, beers we wanted to make, meeting brewers, going to the conference, really like set the foundation for what we were going to do when we came back.
Do you remember any like aha beers on that trip that you like, I don't know, maybe didn't expect that you're going to fall in love with that or have made their way into Four Winds?
Yeah, I think there was one that like, I think I drank a lot of. It was kind of a collaboration that was made for that event. It wasn't for the Brewers Conference, but it was like launched at that time, and it was Dogfish Head and Stone and Lost Abbey, and it was like a peppercorn saison, which is so 2012. But it was so good, and went to the Stone Worldwide Gardens or whatever they call it for the launch, and met all those guys like Greg Koch and Sam Calgione. They're all there and just like hanging out, having beers, talking to everyone. It was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So that beer definitely sticks with me. And then another thing that's interesting though, because at this point, in my previous like culinary world, I actually did a organic farming apprenticeship. So
Oh, neat.
in my like part time, and so a big part of what we wanted to do originally with Four Winds was we wanted to be an organic brewery, and I was pretty hell bent on it. Kind of drank the organic Kool-Aid, and I was like, "There's no other way. We got to go organic." And so we stopped. You guys remember brewery Eel River in Northern California?
Oh, yeah.
They used to sell in BC quite a bit. They were an USDA certified organic brewery, and that was our first stop. We hit Northern California the first day, which was a lot of driving. And the beer was just so bad, like nothing good there. And I was like shocked. I was like, "What? Nothing is good here." Yeah. And so we didn't put it together with organic, and not to take anything away from organic beer, but it just wasn't good. And then at the conference, talking to all the suppliers and everyone that I knew, and they're like, "You can do it, but your variety of ingredients is lower, the quality is lower," which is ironic. It's true. Maybe not so much now. And they also said, and your costs are going to be higher, but you can't charge more. So you're going to pigeonhole yourself into a world that is going to be challenging from day one. So not a single person recommended it. Everyone said avoid it if you can. Which was pretty heartbreaking, but it was a reality. And if we didn't go on that trip, we probably wouldn't have made that decision. We maybe would have come out as an organic brewery, which maybe could have worked, but ultimately we probably would have capitulated to conventional ingredients because, you wouldn't be able to make a lot of beers.
There's not that many organic breweries anymore that I feel like, a lot of ones that were organic and stuff have kind of branched out and maybe have a line or two, and
it's tough. I think organic farming is amazing, but in like monocrop growing like barley and hops, it's very challenging.
Yeah, for sure. And like not much pickup really from consumers that I've seen, right? Like I'm not often getting asked like, "Oh, will you ever use organic ingredients?" or like, "Is your beer organic?" Not questions I'm usually asked. So it doesn't make. I get asked probably like at least once a month if we are going to do non-alcoholic beer. That seems to be something that people ask, but not usually organic.
No, I know. It's and I don't know, but you guys, like, you can't tell. Like someone pours you a beer, if it's good, it's good. If it's organic, you're like, can't tell.
No, you can make a great one, or you can make a conventional great. Like there's not much difference in the ingredients, like you said.
Yeah. It's different for like chefs and restaurants. I think you can get really beautiful organic, locally grown produce, which is different. But it's a different world in the brewing world.
That farmer's market garlic or carrots, it's
hard to beat that.
Big difference.
Yeah. So that was it. So we came back and we just started getting to work. So I left R&B in September of 2012, and we opened in June of 2013. So it was a pretty quick changeover. We got our lease in December, and we opened in June. So it was just about 7 months of getting the keys, doing all of our construction, installation, and having beer ready, which was, now I look back, I'm like, how the hell did we do that? And like, we just built Beach House and it took us like 5 years.
And you started originally with a 10 hec brew house in that space, right?
No, it was the original brew house we have, and it's 25 hec.
Oh, wow. Yeah. For some reason I pictured it smaller. But,
high ceilings, I think that's what it
there you go.
makes it look smaller, right?
Yeah. No, we also were thinking that scale, and like coming from R&B, which was a 20 hec brew house, most of their batches like bright tank finish was like 17. To me, I was like terrified of that scale, being like a unknown brewery. It's like, how are we going to sell all this beer? And we worked with specific mechanical on the brew house layout and stuff, and they're like, well, listen, you can do a 15 hectoliter brew house, or you can go like 25 hectoliter, and the difference is like 10% price wise, and it's like, it just makes more sense. And we're like, okay, fine, makes sense. And I'm glad.
You didn't have to go through the issue of having to buy a new brew house three years later.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of new brew houses, you got the Southlands location. That kind of ties in well with the food as well. I've seen nothing but amazing menu shots, and it seems like you're doing some incredible stuff out there. Um, what was it like? Did you take some of your kitchen experience and setting up the kitchen there? Yeah, what's kind of the
Uh,
ethos around Southlands?
yeah, no, it's it's actually kind of ironic that the farmland that I did my organic apprenticeship is the same land that that building is on. That farm is still there. It's called Earthwise, and it's like an educational farm, and it's still there. Um, but
Incredible.
it's really small scale now. When I was there, they were actually growing vegetables for restaurants, and now they're just like they do little farmers markets and stuff like that, and they do young agrarian stuff type stuff, and kids workshops and stuff. It's really great. It's beautiful. But yeah, as far as the kitchen goes, like I did my best. We hired a consultant to do the kitchen layout. I wasn't gonna get involved with the menu development because I don't think I have the ability or the attention uh, with that. But we did like as you guys know, before we opened this rendition of this brewery, we had grand plans to move our
Yeah.
whole production facility to the same plot of land, which was going to be a 35,000 square foot facility. And in 2019, that project was denied by council, which was very heartbreaking for us. A lot of time and effort and money went into planning what we thought was like a shoe in for the community. In the end, the rejection was a surprise. Um, but we did hire before we got that denied. We hired a chef who's Canadian, but he's had a restaurant in New York who we met years ago, the only Michelin star beer restaurant in the world. So we hired him as like a menu development. So Daniel
Seems
Burns is
qualified.
his name. So the restaurant
Yeah.
was Luxus. Yeah, it was. You remember the beer bar? It's still there, Torst. You guys know that place in
Yeah,
New
in New
York?
Okay,
York.
I've heard of it. I
I've never
haven't been,
been.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
So like at the back of Torst, it's like a sliding door, and there's like a 16 seat like restaurant, and that was Luxus, and it was Daniel Burns' restaurant, and so he came and joined us for like a couple days every other month, and we did menu development. And so when that project got denied, we were pretty heartbroken, but we pulled in some of the inspiration from what we were planning with him, and we made the restaurant a lot more casual that we have now. Initially, we were
Mm,
going to be like more in the lines of what Publish is doing, I think. But we're
Okay.
now we
yeah.
switched gears, and it's definitely like we described, like a West Coast beer hall. And it's a lot of fun. So we hired director of restaurant operations and executive chef Blake Burns of the same last name but no relation, who is a longtime friend. He's a Ladner boy. We kind of grew up together. I didn't know him that well, but a lot of his friends were my friends. Um, and I worked with him actually years ago when I was in the restaurant industry at the Village Tap House in North Van. He was the sous chef there, and I just joined there for a few months as a cook before I went and worked at Aphrodite's. But yeah, great guy,
Yeah.
lots of experience, 20 plus years at Cactus Club. So he runs a tight ship, and it's pretty
Wow.
great.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 Sweet. What can people like expect if they want to go check it out? Like, what's your elevator pitch for going there? If
Yeah,
besides like a 2 hour wait for the ferry or something like that.
yeah. If you're going to the ferry, you got to stop by. Like, that's something that we try to like get into people's heads. Like, oh, you're going to the island? Why don't you like leave your house like 2 hours early and come by beach house and try some beers, have some food.
Yeah.
One thing, like being the beach house, like we're just a couple minute walk from Centennial Beach, which in my opinion is the most swimmable beach in BC and like one of the most beautiful beaches around. We got a lot of seafood on the menu, and we do fresh shuck oysters. We got lots of clams and mussels, like something I love. But there's lots of non-seafood items. We do like a really nice like deep fried mushroom dish, which is like we call them hot oyster mushrooms, really good. A lot of good like snacky
Fun.
things, some pull apart bread, really nice things. But then we also can go to an elegant full meal with like a ribeye. And we have what else is on there? Like this chicken piccata dish, a couple like full
Oh,
on menu. Like
yeah.
I don't know, there's everything in between. We do 3 different burgers, lots of good things. Brewmaster burger is really good with some brie and arugula, caramelized onions.
Ooh,
All the all
Decadent.
the potato, all the fries. Like we make the fries, cut the fries, and make them in house, and they're all grown from the farmland there, which is really cool.
that's
Oh,
sweet.
sweet.
It's good to see that the harvest happened like a couple weeks after we opened, and we got like really like green potatoes, and we're cutting them. We're like, wow, these are like the palest potatoes I've ever seen, and the fries were like pretty good. We're like, yeah, these are good. And then
Yeah.
as they've like aged a bit, they've gotten so much better. So now the fries are just getting better and better. We're like, oh, it's so interesting. Like potatoes need like a bit of time to age to really
Yeah.
be like good French fry potatoes. But yeah, the fries are amazing.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, it's really interesting. Like what in my mind when we were designing this place, I'm like, yeah, we're building a brewery with a restaurant attached. And I don't know if I was the only one with that mindset. My brother Adam, who's our general manager of the business and director of marketing, maybe was like, no, we're opening a restaurant and there's a brewery attached to it. And that's the reality. Like
Yeah.
we are in a small town, and if we were just a beer hall, we'd probably get half the people coming through our doors. The fact that we have like a
Yeah.
full bar menu, we have cocktails, we have wine, we have cider, we have all sorts of things. We wanted to appeal to anyone that was interested in having a drink or a meal and not just be beer.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's really
Y-
cool.
Yeah. You guys have always had like a great food menu, like at the Delta location as well. I
Yeah.
think people can associate your original tasting room with like, oh yeah, I love to go there and get tacos and a beer. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
serves multiple purposes, and yeah, people are
Yeah. I think I agree.
equally
And I think the
excited for
teams,
both.
yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like it used to be like, oh, as long as you make good beer, people will come. But it's like you gotta do it all now. And
Yeah.
I think like the team's done an amazing job of keeping that standard up at River Road, and making it exciting and unique and totally different. Like it's such a different atmosphere at both locations. And some people like the original location because it's so casual and it's got that like classic taproom vibe of a brewery. And then people like the new place because it's a little more upscale. It's like you're going into
Yeah.
a full restaurant. You can get all sorts of beer, but you can have a nice like night out with your wife or a girlfriend
Yeah.
or something. It's
More
Yeah.
of
cool.
a dinner date than a lunch date kind of thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your brother Adam too, and I've had the chance to meet Adam and the rest of your family there. What's it like working so closely with your siblings? I know a bunch of them are involved, and how has that like shaped Four Winds growth and evolution in the last few years?
I think we're like pretty unique about family. Like we're probably like kind of annoying from like an outside perspective because we like all get along without issue. Like obviously any family there's challenges, but we truly like each other, which is pretty rare. Outside of work, we usually hang out together, so that helps a lot. And it's easy for us to just bounce ideas off each other or be like, oh man, like I don't know about that. Like no one's taking anything personal. Um,
Right.
Yeah.
as opposed to business partners or people you work with. It's hard to separate those things, but we've all known each other our whole lives, so there isn't really like we're like there's no boundaries to cross. Like it's just like it's wide open, which is great. And so yeah, we've Adam and I guess have been the driving force on this project and the growth of Four Winds as I don't know, we're kind of just nonstop like uh trying to think of new things that would be fun. We're a bit of like masochists in that sense, where it's like we know that this is going to be hell and very difficult, but man, it'll be rad when we do it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Just
I
when you
think
get
that's the
settled,
spirit
you already
of
think about what's next.
even before we open this place, we're like we already have an idea for the next spot.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
we'll hit pause. The last 6 months have been very hard, but it's feeling normal now. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's funny how that's the reality sometimes, and I think that's the craft beer spirit, right? Like we're all just a little crazy. There's
Yes.
so much hard work that goes into this. And
Yeah.
so much hard work that goes
Yeah.
into this, and not a huge amount of reward. So,
No. Yeah.
but we all get to really do what we love for a living, which not even 2% of the people can say they do, I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
pretty
really
special.
special seeing people like, have a can of your beer, or, have like the food menu that you guys have put so much heart into. And it's like making memories and stuff in a space that you've helped create. And that's pretty sweet. That's pretty special to feel like you're like, oh yeah, I'm providing this for my community. Yeah.
It really is like a fulfilling feeling, and makes it all worthwhile. We had like an idea to do a New Year's party at the beach house this year, and we weren't sure how it was going to go. We're like, oh, this space is so great for like a party. Let's try to throw a party together and have a bit of a ticketed event. And our GM Eddie, who's amazing, he's like, are you sure? Like, don't you want to do like a 5 o'clock seating, a 7 o'clock seating, and a 9 o'clock seating, like 3 seatings of dinner? And we're like,
Right.
I wasn't really like in favor of either. I was like, I don't know, whatever. And
Yeah.
Adam's like, no, we're doing a party, and we're gonna close at 9, and we're gonna have food sale, or like restaurant will be open until 8. Pardon me, and then the party's gonna start at 9, and we're gonna sell 200 tickets, and we're gonna get a band, and we're gonna party hard. We're gonna have people walking around with canapes. We're gonna do champagne at midnight.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And we had no idea if people would buy tickets. It's $50. You get a beer when you walk in. You get music. You get some canapes. You get champagne at midnight, and then the whole bar menu is open for whatever you wanted. And we ended up selling out, not right away. Big sales right off the beginning, and then the day before we sold out. We're like, wow, we sold out. So I got down there at 8 o'clock, right when we closed. Spent an hour like frantically getting the place set up. And then everyone started showing up, and you wouldn't imagine the age range of people that came, like 19-year-olds, every age range up until like 85, and everyone was rocking it, man. Like dance floor, like
That's
the
incredible.
whole time, and we couldn't believe it. It was like one of the best parties I've been to ever, and like everyone's like, next year we'll be back. This is the best New Year's party. And the big thing, like living in the suburbs, is like everyone wants to go have a party on New Year's, but the nightmares of going downtown and getting home are such a challenge.
Oh, totally.
So half these people were walking home. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's
so much fun. So yeah, it's a cool space for that. It was a lot of fun.
That's exciting.
Sweet. Well, shifting gears here a bit, let's talk a bit more about beer. Four Winds started with a pretty strong Belgian-inspired beer lineup, like many of us in the 2010s. How has your approach shifted over time, and do you still rely on yeast to drive a lot of the flavor in your beers?
I don't think yeast is playing as big of a role as it used to as far as flavor profiles. Definitely was a huge part of what we're doing for a long time, even as still. But as we move forward, we're exploring more hop profile beers and a lot more lagers, which obviously is a major contributor to the flavor. But essentially, the lager, you're trying to accentuate more of that maltiness and the crispness, which the yeast does participate in. But yeah. The Belgian inspiration was a huge thing, and it makes me sad. Like, we still try to sneak in farmhouse beers and saisons every now and then, but they just don't move. Like our first beer that we brewed at Beach House, which was one of my favorite beers we made last year, which is 3.5% farm table beer, Belgian table small saison and Brett C. Dry hopped with a little bit of Nelson Sauvignon, and it was just such a lovely beer.
You're talking Aslan's language there.
Yeah, we still have some. Like, we did 15 hectoliters, and we still have some. So it was our first beer we released, and it was selling really well. I was like, yes, Saison's back. And then I realized that it was our only beer that was brewed on site, so everyone was wanting to try it. As soon as other beers rolled out, it dropped off. But it's okay. Like, my palate has evolved as well. Like, I didn't like hazy beers for the longest time, and now I come around to it, and I actually quite enjoy them. And we're doing quite a bit more of hazy IPAs and hazy pales, and finding the deliciousness in there. But a big part of what we're doing now is, like, especially at the beach house, is rooted in European lager production, and specifically Czech style. The brew house there was designed to have decoction capabilities. So when we do Czech beers, not only Czech beers, but some German and Belgian beers, we'll do decoctions. We do one triple decocted Czech pale lager there. And we also have open top fermenters for these beers too. So we do two 15 typically with these beers, we'll do 215 hectoliters into our open tops. And then we have 30 hectoliter horizontal lagering tanks. So we'll blend those beers into the lagering tanks and give them the time they need. Those lagering tanks also double as service tanks. So we've done it only once, where we connected directly to the tank and served to the bar on the Lucre side pour, which is really cool. We did it for about a week, and we needed that tank, so we kegged it out and filled it back up. So in concept, it was a good idea.
I mean, that's a lot of beer.
It'll take a while.
Yeah.
So we'll do it occasionally, but it's not like the best scale for service tanks, but it was pretty rad.
Yeah, that's like your go-to for the weeks that it's on. All right, I guess I'll have that one again today.
Yeah, for sure. There was a time in the industry where it was, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but we're making beer that we want to drink as brewers, and that was a lot of fun. And now, as the industry has matured, we have to listen a lot more to the consumer, and it can be frustrating sometimes when you don't get to brew the beer exactly the way you want it, but it also gives you an opportunity to, like, expand the palate. And, like, I rejected it for a long time, and just kind of allowed it to be like, okay, well, these people really want to drink our beer. They just want it to be this type of beer. And it's like, what an honor for them to, like, want us to make a different beer for them because they want to support us. So that's like another perspective I've learned to look at this industry, and it's really cool. And I can't imagine any other, like, industry where people, like, care enough about a brewery that they want you to make something a little different so they don't buy it from someone else. And
totally,
we still keep our spirit in those products, and we still get passionate and are proud of them. But it's not something that we wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I need to do this. I need to brew this beer. But we still find a way to find the passion and love it and become proud of it. So it's cool. It's an evolution for sure.
I mean, we're still making beer. It's not like we're all of a sudden just doing something. It's like, okay, we're completely different. Okay, it's not the hugest pivot, but it is hard sometimes when you spend so much time thinking about making certain styles of beer, how you can make those better, and then just having that kind of just the appetite go away, right? And like, that kind of avoid there. That
helps us all avoid being a one-trick pony, though.
For sure.
Like a good challenge, you know. It's like sometimes you're like, okay, I've honed in this pale ale for the umpteenth time. Now somebody's like, oh, I want, like, a dessert stout, and I'm like, I've never even thought about doing that. Like, I guess we'll figure it out. Here we go.
Yeah.
Deep dive on the podcast and the find your sources.
And there's so much knowledge out there for any type of thing you would need to research. It's really cool. Spent a little bit of time today researching West Coast Pilsners, which is something we haven't done. And I was like, I just typed into a couple websites, West Coast Pilsner, and it's just like so many podcasts, so many articles, and I'm like, all right, there's lots to learn.
Now you know all about Timbo Pills, probably.
Timbo.
Like, now I gotta drink this beer.
Pretty rad.
Sweet. Speaking of beer, we're gonna drink a Four Winds beer. Should we start with? I have a Featherweight and a Hüftgold. What do you want to start with?
I'm almost done my Hüftgold, so let's talk about Hüftgold.
All right.
Sounds great.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a couple earlier this week when I got the 4-pack, so
nice.
I couldn't resist waiting, but it tastes great.
Nice. Hüftgold started off as a fest beer we brewed in like 2014 or 15 for Oktoberfest, and it came out like originally it was like I think 5.6%, and we loved it so much that we're like, let's dial it back a little bit and make it just like a German Pilsner. Um, and it's like kind of evolved over the years. It's still evolving. But yeah, it's something that I never thought would have the kind of demand it's grown into. It's like currently I think it's our number one beer, at least for value, like our dollar value.
Yeah.
Like
dollars.
Featherweight, I think, is number one for volume. But yeah, we brew a lot of it, like and it does really well. And yeah, we love it. We're actually like
And it is
going
definitely
through
like
a
a
process.
distinctly. Sorry.
Yeah. No, let's
Go
hear it.
ahead.
I want to hear what
Sorry.
I know. I want to hear what you're gonna say.
Oh, it's like it's like distinctly like a continental pilsner. Like it's not pilsner is a marketing term, I guess. It's like
Yeah.
there is very
Yes,
much
yeah,
like a honey malt backbone, like yeah,
for sure. And that, yeah.
hop
So
character.
yeah. No, I agree. And we're going through a bit of a audit on all of our core beers right now, just like kind of beating them up a little bit, being like, how can we make this better? And Hüftgold is the first one in our list of things that we're adjusting. We're slowly making some tweaks. This one particularly, we're lowering the mash temperature a little bit, and we're going to add a little bit more finishing hops. So we wanted to have a little more aromatic pop and a little crispier. But we didn't want to change the beer so much because there's so many people that drink this regularly, but we're trying to find a way to tweak it just to bring it into the next kind of realm of its life, and we're pretty excited about how it's tasting so far. So this is like the OG. This is how it tastes now, but the new version will be a little lighter, not lighter in flavor, but a little lighter in body, a little crisper, a little more middle fruit hop aroma. But ultimately,
Yeah.
it's our bread and butter pilsner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's got this nice, like you said, honey malt character. It's not too bitter right now. Like a lot of Czech style pilsners or even like American pilsners will be like very bitter, but this is very balanced between like the malt sweetness and like the hop character, I find.
Yeah, the balance is there for sure, and that's like a key thing for me. And Four Winds beers is like the drinkability's got to be high.
Yeah,
I agree. There are a lot of great locally produced pilsners, and I do love most of them. But sometimes I'm like, just a little too bitter. And I love bitter pilsners, but like sometimes just a little too much.
No, I like the balance of this one a lot. What's the base malt in this one that you guys are using?
This is a blend of Gambrinus pills and Wireman pills.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So
yeah,
we initially were doing it IREX.
Yeah.
100% IREX. And just with like the cost of European malt, we had to figure out if we're going to raise the price of the beer or modify it with a recipe. And so we decided to cut in some Canadian grown barley. And I think if we went 100% German malt on it, it would be a little bit different, but we're ultimately pretty happy with the outcome of it.
I find like using blending your base malts in a way like that, you can lots of times like find a good healthy medium of getting that like high diastatic power and of domestic malt, and kind of get that extract potential while still getting some of that character.
Using like the American or North American malts to like drive down, like get some more enzymatic action to help like drive that attenuation. It's definitely something I'm also a fan of. Love the blend of like the German and the, like in most cases, Canadian malts, just because of that. And also does like lighten the character. Like sometimes these German malts can be like the perception of sweetness is high, even though the beer might be dry. It can come across as like very intense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Hüftgold falls into that category a little bit sometimes. And this batch is okay, but like sometimes it's like, whoa, this is so sweet. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's 2.3 finishing gravity. Like it shouldn't
Yeah.
be that sweet.
Yeah.
Have you had a
Cool.
chance to compare brewing, say like this beer at Beach House with the open top
That would be
fermentation
a
and
good
seeing how that
experiment.
changes?
Yeah. No, we haven't done that yet. And we're still trying to figure out like the whole concept with Beach House was that I was going to be like an incubator really to create new styles or new beers and see how they do and then grow them up to full scale. We haven't really figured out how to do that properly yet, but yeah, that's a good call. So we just brewed a Helles, which isn't far off from this, but it's a lot lighter. That was open top fermented and then transferred with a couple Plato left into a fermenter. It's just tasting so nice, and yeah, it's cool. It'd be cool to do Hüftgold in that realm for sure. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Special Hüftgold, Beach House Hüftgold. I like it.
Yeah.
Double gold. Yeah.
Nice. And then you mentioned like middle fruit for this one. Do you guys have like a house lager strain, or do you guys use different lager strains for different beers?
We started with White Labs German lager, which is their version of 3470, and so we kind of just we've been using that forever. And the challenges with White Labs in Canada now is a little tricky, so we've been substituting the same version of yeast from other labs locally and dry yeast and stuff like that. Just trying different things. But that's kind of the yeast strain we use here. Classic lager strain.
Yeah, just classic. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it works well. It's pretty predictable.
I feel like 3470 and all of the market equivalents. I mean, that's like probably the widest used lager strain in the world.
For sure.
Must be,
and for good reason.
Yeah.
Right? Why Heinz-Stefan lager yeast, right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think the number comes from them, actually. But I don't know enough about it.
No, it makes
someone
sense.
can look it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, and then we bitter with we do like a first wort bittering with Magnum, and then 10-minute middle brew, and then a big middle brew Whirlpool edition.
Yeah.
And we ferment our lagers pretty cold. We knock out at 8 and we set the tank to 9, and we spun with about 5 Plato left. And once fermentation finishes and diacetyl passes, we cool it slowly, and then we give it up to 4 weeks from there.
Sweet.
Nice.
We're not dedicated to the 4-week calendar. We base it off of flavor. So we're tasting the beers all the time. Once we hit that profile that we like, we're like, okay, passed. Sometimes it takes longer than 4 weeks. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks, but it's interesting, and like the variables are so hard to nail down why. Sometimes it's faster and sometimes it's longer, but usually has to do with generation of yeast.
Yeah, exactly. Something to do with yeast. Often the case. It's like
magic substance.
Yeah, you'd think we would know it all by now, but no.
Nope.
Hard to tame the
and
beast sometimes.
With middle fruit, was that kind of just like what you started with as a hop, or how did you settle on Hallertau middle fruit?
Yeah,
I personally don't have a lot of experience with the Hallertau hops, and I'm just like always like, oh man, I would love to know exactly what they do.
Yeah, well, I don't have a ton of experience with most of them either, but I don't know, maybe I had a beer or read about middle fruit and German Pilsners and had a little bit of experience like home brewing with it. I was like, it's just such like a quintessential continental Pilsner malt. Like the aroma is like you're in a German hop field, and it's just lovely.
Yeah.
Floral, little woody, little herbal. But I've noticed over the last few years, and I just like realized this week how low the alpha acids have become. Like I used to remember them at like 5. Yeah. And our current lot is 2.1.
2.1? Oh, it's lower than mine. Mine was 2.5, and I was giving Stefan grief.
Yeah,
What is
this is
this?
Saz territory now, man.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, whoa, maybe we got to find another variety. And that's probably why, like, we usually when our Whirlpool editions, we're just going by weight, not expecting a huge amount of alpha acid
Yeah,
or isomerized uh, bitterness coming out of there.
yeah,
So we need to make an adjustment with that.
yeah. No, I had to do the same because I was like, oh, I'm not relying on these IBUs, but they are doing
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Especially, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
doing a big addition at the end, right? It's like, oh, 2.5 to like 4 is substantial difference.
yeah. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, just kind of disappointing.
yeah.
But we got a new crop coming in next week, so we'll see. Hopefully, it's better. I don't know.
I've heard it's better. They always tell you it's
Yeah,
better, though. So.
yeah, it's always better.
It's always better
If the
next year.
alpha acid's not higher, it's got higher oils, so something's better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's always something
Yeah.
that's better. Sweet.
Nice.
Well,
It's really actually it's really high in 3MH, and you should probably start mash hopping with it.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Get those styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we'll move on to the next beer, which is Featherweight. It's been a standout session beer for hop lovers. What do you think has been the key to its success, considering it's won a whole boatload of awards? Like bronze 2024 at the CBAs, gold 2023 Canada Beer Cup, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of them. I could bore you,
Yeah.
but
No,
on your shelf somewhere.
actually, I don't know if it's won a ton of awards. Recently, it's won some awards, which is great. And historically, I don't think it won many, but honestly, like, it's just like an easy beer, and it's just like we avoided, and this might play a role in its success. I don't know, but we avoided calling it a session IPA just because that, like, in the era of session beers, like, I was like, what a weird way to describe a beer. It's like
Yeah.
you get this and you just session a bunch of beers. Like, it was just like not like I don't do that. It's a reality. That's something that I do and we all do. But like, kind of want to avoid talking about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Featherweight obviously means it's going to be a light beer. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that kind of spoke for itself, and just calling it an IPA. And so that was kind of the concept. And it's hard to say. It does very well for a number of reasons. I think it's just like it's under 5%. It's got some nice bitterness. It's very drinkable. It has a nice hop flavor, a nice hop aroma. But it's available at the government liquor stores, which always allows products to grow in demand because it's available and it's usually at the best price in the market. And so I don't know how many stores we have it in, but it's probably in a couple hundred stores in BC. But it's just like a staple. We're packaging this beer almost every week too, so it's always fresh. That plays a role with hoppy beers. But yeah, the funny thing about Featherweight is that we didn't actually release the beer until our second or third year in production. We originally released it in bombers and then moved it into 6-packs once we got into canning. But it was the first beer we sold under license when we opened Four Winds Brewing. It was a pilot batch that I did before we even opened, and it was put into a cask for a cask fest at the Portside pub. In like, I guess we opened June 1st, so it was like May sometime in 2013 before we opened, and we called it Featherweight IPA. I remember we dry hopped it with Warrior back then, and I was like, what the hell was I thinking? It's like a 22 alpha acid hop. But anyways, that was the beginning. Awesome. So the malt base stayed somewhat the same. The hops changed. We now go Amarillo, Mosaic, and Citra, I believe. Originally Centennial, but I think
and is that mostly cold side, like?
Yeah, we do a little bit of a Whirlpool edition, very small, or not very small, but just Whirlpool, and then pretty heavily dry hop, and just Chico yeast. So we centrifuge it as well, but we don't aim for absolute clarity. We find like this beer can have a little bit of turbidity to it, not a hazy by any means, but it doesn't have to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always
craft
a
beer
bonus.
Clear is what I call it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always a bonus if you don't write clear or hazy on your label, you know, and you're like, this, you know, sometimes it tastes better like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't pour it into a glass.
Yeah.
How are you balancing like that nice hop character with like the maltiness, or are you kind of just coming like at this like a pale ale? Are you trying to like get a sweetness from like a lower attenuation, or like is there malts in here giving it some sweetness to balance the hops out?
Yeah, we definitely we do mostly infusion mashing on all our beers, so we do a pretty quick low temp mashing. I think we're at like 66 or something like that, and we quickly step up to 69 until we convert. But we have, when the beer has a decent amount of carapils, there's a bit of flaked wheat in there, I believe, that will keep the body structure there.
Drive the body.
Yeah. And then the dry hop is pretty heavy. I think we're doing 100 kilos per hectoliter, so 10 grams, I guess, per liter. Is that the math? 10 grams.
Yeah, 10 grams a liter. Yeah, that's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
And all T90?
T90, yeah. Yeah. We actually would love to explore some hop product with this beer to kind of increase the yield on it, but we just haven't really got around to that yet. That's next after
Hüftgold.
Next in the audit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look out.
And this is the thing I think a lot of people don't realize is like, that idea of just like, you know, your beer is never stagnant. It's like, you know, things change year to year, it's like you're saying with your middle fruit. And as a result, like we have to respond to that. And also just the market's interest. I think, Darren, you had said in a previous episode, you're just like, just increase your hopping rates by 10% every year and you'll be on track.
Yeah, it's like inflation. Just increase your hop load 5% every year and you can keep up with hopflation, I call it. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah
Well, the prices of hops are coming down, so it might work out in the end.
Yeah. Finally. One thing.
And the advanced products are getting a lot better too.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of experimenting. We do another like session IPA that we call Ultralight. It's 2.9%, and first time we brewed it was all T90, and it was good. It's a hazy too, or it's a hazy, so it like you get a little bit of that like falsified body from visually seen thickness, and there is a little bit more there for sure, but I think it's more of like a tasting with your eyes sort of thing. But we
totally.
went all
it's the
T90
idea of
on
like
the
when you
first
look
batch.
at it.
Yeah, feels fuller, tastes fuller. The T90 was coming through like kind of astringent, so the next time we went all liquid extract in the kettle in the whirlpool, and we did a mix of I can't remember the product for dry hop, but a mix of T90 and a product, and it popped. It was way cleaner, way nicer.
Yeah. Nice.
And the yield was great. It was like, wow, look at this yield.
Yeah, it's like sometimes those products are expensive, but you're making it back quickly. Which is sweet.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, I have to ask you the question that everyone wants to know in BC, and is Phaedra coming back?
Oh man. We'll do it. We'll do it at Beach House, but we'll do it.
It's coming back.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to do it. There's a couple beers I want to do at Beach House that I love, like Triplicity, which was their Belgian triple with BC honey, which is a lovely beer, and Phaedra. We could. I wanted to do them this year. We just couldn't figure out. We were jammed in. Both these beers are like fall Christmas beers, so
there you go.
Yeah, you heard it here. Hold me to it.
Yeah. Winter.
Phaedra,
winter 2025.
Yeah.
Well, it's got like a weird cult following to it too. I mean, it was a great beer. I had it right back then, but
it's so interesting, like the amount of rye and wheat in there, the worst lauter of all time, so much viscosity. We're using Chimay
Yeah, for
yeast to
those that
ferment.
don't know,
So
are new, it was like a 33% barley and wheat and rye base, I believe. I mean, you could
yep,
talk more to it, and then
no,
like a
that's right.
dry hopped Belgian style beer.
Yeah,
I
IPA.
think.
Yeah, Chimay
Yeah,
yeast, and
yeah,
then it was like I think the hops we're using. It was just I want to say it was Citra and Belma, but
yeah.
I can't remember. I got to
Belma.
look at a
Yeah,
recipe. It's
I
been a
remember that.
while.
Yeah, at least one
But
time it
it
was
was
the one time that it went to the label.
yeah. The had the most it was the most viscous finished product I've ever had. Actually, it was like syrup almost. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, it had a cult following, but it's interesting how I like. I'm not a fan of phenolic hoppy beers anymore. At the time, it was like such a unique experience, and I'm like,
Yeah,
phenolics and hops. I don't know, not my favorite.
not anymore. Times have
Yeah,
changed. Yeah,
yeah,
The Belgian IPA trend. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. But
Everything's
yeah,
cyclical, but maybe not that one.
yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, though.
Yeah,
It's mentioned about once a month on social media, and it's just
there you
hilarious.
go. Well, that I did everyone a service then. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that count
yeah,
as like the once for January or the once for
Yeah.
February now?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, that is going to start popping up all the time.
Now you're gonna get more.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's okay. It cracks me up every time. Yeah.
Last year
But
you
it's amazing
released
that people
a
still
collab
care about these
beer.
things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's the cool part too, is people remember these beers. People will remember, like, bring up beers to me. I'm like, oh, I don't even remember that one. They go back to their
Remember,
Yeah.
beer archive and do it. I'm like, oh yeah, we did do that.
is it
Smoked
the
Yeah.
cherry
first
beer.
the first time you guys did Pekina Cabo as like a cask for like a pop-up food thing you guys did just off of like Hastings and Gore?
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
you went
remember
to
that. I
that?
was there
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that was
Yeah.
our
And
second
then
anniversary. That was like Dixie's barbecue, but it was like no one was in there at that point, so we rented it for a day and just like took over this
yeah.
restaurant. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
did
it's like a
I
funny
think we had
pop-up.
Pequeño Cabo. The one other beer that we had there that people still go crazy for in the same sense of Phaedra is Salt and Pepper Goza. And
Yeah.
it's like
That was
it's like the most savory beer ever. And like people are like, "Oh, I need that." And I'm like, "Really?"
it was
It's
remembered in a
so
fond
salty and so
light. There was
peppery.
yeah.
burgers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's rad. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
Did you guys did like food with like I feel like you were working a lot of the kitchen, wasn't it? It's
I
like
don't know
you
if I
and
was in the
Todd or
kitchen that
something
night, but yeah, no, Todd.
running
I don't know
food.
if
Yeah.
Todd was there, but I
Yeah.
know Todd's done some pop-ups there, and I used to work with Todd back at
Maybe that
R&B
was it. Yeah.
back in the day. But it was like right when we launched our food program at River Road, and we jumped on that opportunity to do that, and we did like meatloaf sandwiches and like I can't even remember what else. We're serving everything on frisbees that were Four Winds branded frisbees. Do you guys remember that? And
Yeah.
we had all like 10 beers that we made on our full scale system, but we had like another 10 pilot beers that we made that were just like homebrew kind of total shitty beers, but they were pretty
Yeah.
rad and experimental.
You can only have them
Super
one night,
fun.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you drink a bunch of other beers before you try this one, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad.
That's so cool. It
Yeah.
was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You had the question, Darren. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Darren,
Well,
you were saying something.
yeah. Well, last year you released a collaborative non-alc beer with Baby No Money. What was the process for developing that beer? And then which Canadian rapper are you going to collaborate next with?
Yeah, great question. So I don't know if you guys know Jules, who's our head brewer. I'm sure you guys do. He's the best.
Yeah.
Baby No Money is his brother-in-law, so that was
Oh, no
pretty
way.
quick
Oh,
connect.
what?
Yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So you know him as Baby No Money. I've met him and know him as Alex, and he's great.
Right.
He's such a good dude. And Jules and him obviously are really good friends. Jules has known him since he was like a 12-year-old boy, he said. So seeing him become who he is. Jules is just like, it's so funny to see him like this international superstar. Is like, can't even believe it. But yeah, he's just so open to do things. And Jules is like, hey, do you guys want to make a beer with Baby No Money? And we're like, yeah, 100%. Of course we do. And he asked him, and Alex was like, yeah, oh, that's great. I'd love to do it. Like, but Jules, like, it's your beer. Like, he's like, it's yours. Like, I love Four Winds guys, but like, it's your beer. And so Jules is like, oh, I got this pressure to deliver this beer. So we went back and forth on a few ideas. Like, we were initially thinking like a really like zero bitterness, hazy hoppy pale that had like some tropical terpenes, so it was like kind of like fruit juice kind of vibe. And we're like, yeah, so this will really hit. And then I think Alex was like, hey, do you guys ever make a non-alc beer? Because he doesn't even drink. Like, his music is like pretty party heavy, but he's like sober dude. And Jules is like, you want to make a non-alc beer? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And like, neither of us really cared and weren't really that inspired, but like, now's an opportunity to like get into it, find some passion, and like learn and do it. And we went back and forth on a bunch of ideas, and ultimately, like, I brought this bottle of kombucha to the brewery one day, and it's like this Ontario kombucha company called Greenhouse, I think, and they make like a pineapple butterfly pea flower kombucha, and it just tastes like pineapple soda. It's like really good.
Right.
And Jules is like, that's it, we're gonna do that. And so Jules did most of the design, and I just kind of like threw my 2 cents at it, but it was his baby for sure. But ultimately, is non-alc beer with chamomile, butterfly pea flower, apple terpenes, and dry hop with a little bit of mosaic. And we did a couple trials, three test batches, and we're like, wow, this is like the most non-beer tasting beer I've ever had. And like, this is like right up Baby No Money's alley. And we're pretty fired up about it. Like, can't believe this is like a thing. And so we went from like a 10-liter batch to a 100 hectoliter batch. And it was intense. Like, Jules is stressing hard because we got a pitch of this non-alc strain. We acidified the wort. We did it like how we brew Nectarus, which is like acidify the wort in the fermenter and then pitch yeast once we hit our pH. And the strain we're using, it was struggling to ferment. Like, obviously, we only wanted like a 10% fermentation.
Like a small fermentation. Yeah.
And so it wasn't really moving at all. And then we got to the point where it was like, okay, there's a bit of movement, but like, it's not going as far as we thought. And so we had to crash it, or else it was going to get too acidic. And definitely worried. And getting enough butterfly pea flour for a 100 hect batch was kind of tricky too.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. And so first turn, we did 4 turns. First turn, it was barely color. So after the 4th turn, we figured out how to extract as much as we could out of it. And then, so yeah, we had the beer ready, cooled it, carbonated it, and we're like, pretty good. Doesn't taste like beer, but pretty good. So we canned it, and we actually found a company that has a tunnel pasteurizer. So we brought it to this company that tunnel pasteurized it and cooked the hell out of it. We were really concerned that the like cooked
pea flour,
that and the lactic acid was gonna taste like garbage. But it actually tasted better. We couldn't believe it. It came back and
it just like helps it marinate.
I don't know why. So yeah, it was a nice surprise. And so we thought it was just going to be like the biggest success ever because Baby No Money's reach. He's got like millions and millions of followers around the world. And then we came to the reality that the non-alc world is not the beer world, and we don't have any channels in that world. We don't have grocery channels. We don't have convenience stores. We don't have any of these. Some liquor stores take it, but they know people don't go to a liquor store to buy non-alcoholic beer. So we still have some of it. It still tastes great. Like I drink it regularly, and it's like it doesn't taste like it's aged a day, which is amazing. But
That's incredible. That's one of those things like with
ultimately,
pasteurization.
Yeah.
You know,
I know,
frozen in
I know. It's
time.
the first time. Yeah, I know. It was the first time we ever done anything like that, and I'm a believer now. Uh, but
Well,
yeah,
you
ultimately, it wasn't the most successful beer we released, but I don't think we've learned more from a beer than that beer, and it's
Right.
definitely stimulated us moving forward. Like I found use cases for non-alc beers before we brewed this. Like for me, I was like, what's the point if you're not gonna have a real beer? Just have like water. But I found myself for months working on building a beach house, going to bars, drinking beer, having meetings with people, and like just getting the juices flowing. And like, oh, I've had a couple too many beers here, like, but I don't want to stop drinking and have some
Yeah.
non-alc beers to like keep on being a part of it without taking a step back. I was like, I
Yeah.
get it.
yeah.
This is my personal reason for non-alcoholic beers, and
Yeah.
it took a while for me to figure that out. And then so we brewed that beer, and we haven't done another one since, but we've been working on non-alc beers for a while, and we're excited to try to launch something this year as well in more of a traditional beer flavor. We find that beer is cool and pretty damn delicious, but it's not what people are looking for in a non-alc beer, at least like at a volume scale. It's a sour
Yeah.
beer. Like it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't really
Yeah.
taste like beer, and people that want non-alc beer want a beer that tastes like beer. So
Yeah.
lots of learning, lots of fun,
Yeah.
and excited to brew some other non-alc beers.
Sweet.
That's a cool challenge. Let's we should move on to the
Yeah.
one big question.
Yeah.
You know, especially with your time in the scene and ultimately being one of the like early, craft beer people, and I guess that'd be like, what is that, third wave of craft beers, craft brewers in Vancouver? But yeah, what excites you most about the Canadian brewing industry right now, like from your perspective? Where could we
Yeah, it's interesting.
improve? Where could we grow?
That's a good question, and like I think it's hard to like be discouraged in craft beer. Like we definitely are not on the up and up as we once were, and like craft beer is having challenges as we see a lot of breweries struggling. Hard to get sales. The economy isn't strong. It's hard, but you know we're a resilient industry, and like we went through a huge growth phase uh, from 2010 to 2019, and now we're softened a little bit, but it's like so normal and natural for any industry that has that kind of growth phase to have a little bit of a rebound. And we're finding like a maturity, or at least growing into maturity as an industry, and that means quality over like gimmicks and quality over quantity, and that's like such a beautiful thing um, to me. And quite frankly, like the beer quality that you taste in every one of the beers brewed in BC today is so much better than it was 5 years ago. So much better than it was 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And that's so exciting and amazing and just so inspiring. And like we just spoke about it as well, but like I never thought I would be excited about this. But like the non-alc world to me is like opening up a new page of inspiration, and like it's I'm looking at it and we're looking at it in a different realm. It's like analogy would be like it's more of like an energy drink than beer. Like you don't have the shackles of the simplicity that beer is needed. Non-alc beers, like of course you need barley malt, hops, and water, but there's other things to make that beer, that non-alcoholic beer, taste awesome, and it's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
conventional. And we're excited to explore that realm and see what we can create. There's some good stuff happening in the States, and I think a couple breweries in Ontario are making some amazing non-alc beers, but we're excited to jump into that ring and see what we
Yeah,
can
totally. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's
do. Makes me feel
always
old
fun to
getting
just have
excited about non-alc beer.
I think it's
Embrace
just
it.
those like it's those challenges though. It makes you think again about like, you know, what is it?
Yes.
Then like, now it's like you said, you were nervous about starting the brewery and the mysticism of even making beer to start with. And it's like, now that's that again, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
How do we accomplish those flavor profiles and like, you know, the thing we know and love?
Yeah. And bring complexity to something that is hard to do as well. It's like,
for sure,
so hard to do, right?
Like it. Yeah, and it's going to take a while, but I think like some of the non-alc beers that I've tasted recently, I'm like, wow, these are actually like really tasty. And think about where non-alc beer was 5 years ago and where it's going to be in 5 years is like incredible.
Yeah.
Opportunity and growth it's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. When you're not at the brewery, Brent, how do you like to spend your time outside of it?
I got 2 young kids, so I'm usually at home with the kids, just doing fun stuff, exploring. My kids and I love going to different swimming pools. They're 3 and 5, so we haven't explored any like big water parks yet, but definitely every weekend we're going to a different pool around the Lower Mainland, which is a lot of fun.
Nice. That's sweet.
Kids are into lots of sports and stuff, but we're just hanging around the house. We live not far from the beach house, so we're in Beach Grove in Tsawwassen, so not far from the beach. So we do a lot of beach time. But yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
Go
digging for clams and beach combing.
Yeah, exactly. No digging for clams these days, but yeah, some crab grabbing and beach combing for sure. Yeah, it's awesome.
Rad.
That's cool. Great. And Brent, you talked about it a bit with Featherweight, having your own listing product, but where's the best place for people to come and grab your product?
The best place is definitely our brewery on River Road to grab the classic Four Winds beers. We're always experimenting and making new beers out of our original brewery. And it's a great experience to come in there and have some tacos and a beer, get some beer to go. But if you want to travel a little bit further, if you're coming to Vancouver, come down to the beach house and get a whole new experience where we really spend a lot of time and effort on our draft service model. Like all of our beer taps are Lucre side pours or Freedom taps, and we're pouring the beers as they do in the Czech Republic, and it's a beautiful thing. We got typically about 10 unique beers that we only sell at the beach house in the fridge and on tap. Czech beers, hazy beers, stouts, German beers. We got lots of unique beers there too. So at the source is the best. If you can't make it out, we do a decent amount at government liquor stores and then specialty beer stores as well. But the source is the best.
Yeah. Easily to grab at the liquor store in Penticton. So there you go.
Nice. Yeah.
That's my barometer. How accessible things are.
Yeah. Darren actually got to drink the beer on the podcast.
There you go. Yeah. Nice. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it's tougher than others.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Well, awesome. As we wrap up, if you want to support Brent and have some Four Winds beers, he just told you where to get it. And then, if you want to support the show even more, tell your friends about it. Follow us on Instagram at Why This Beer. We're on Facebook and YouTube. And that's probably it. That's all we can manage. And if you want to support us, you can buy our beers as well. Main Street Brewing Beers, wherever you can find their beers, as well as Neighborhood Brewing and Yellow Dog as well. I guess until next time, guys. Cheers.
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 Thanks, guys.
Thank you.